So, great evening to all the speakers. To thank you for joining us for the discussions on the water festivals, spreading happiness across the ASEAN. So, thanks to all the honorable speakers and thank for your efforts because someone had to call from DC times to joining us today. So, anyway, to thanks to all the audience and all the speakers again, once again. So, I would like to begin the discussions now. So I would like, as we know, the Songkran festival is considered as a significant event, not just only in Thailand, but also in other countries in Southeast Asia, especially the mainland Southeast Asia. So it's not just a holiday that we have a chance to throw in waters on each other or spend time with families. But Songkran has represents the uniqueness of shared cultural identities of Southeast Asian people as well. So for Songkran, they have coined many different names. Like in Laos, they call it as Bun Pi Mai. In Thai, we know as Songkran. In Cambodia, they call it as Chom Chanam Khama. Oh, correct me if I'm wrong about that. So, and also in Burmese language, they call this Ting Chan in Myanmar as well. So these are how we all celebrate this kind of festivals, but by have some sharing ideas about waters, why we have to use the waters. So our honorable speakers will elaborate more about the water as the symbolisms of some things. So these panel discussions will be about the common and unique water festivals from the invited honorable speakers who will help us to get more deeper understandings about with the diverse dimensions of Songkran festivals, which is as the common heritage in ASEAN. So through the music, performance, histories, and tourism. So first of all, I would like to thanks to all to ASEAN's Thai Base and Tourism Authority of Thailand or TAT to host this ASEAN's cultural online seminars to exchange and connect people together to enhance collaborations in ASEAN by people to the peoples. So first of all, I would like to self-introduce myself as the moderator for today. So I'm currently the lecturer at the Faculties of Political Science at Ubon Ratchathani University. So my research interest is about shared Southeast Asian art and cultures and overseas Chinese in Southeast Asia and the Chinese soft power towards ASEAN countries. So I used to work in the Ministry of Cultures a couple years ago as the cultural officers and museums curators in the ASEAN museums a long time ago before I pursued my master degree. So to be today's I'm going to be the moderators for you all. So as we know that ASEAN, we try to, the main goals of Southeast Asia about ASEAN is about like one vision, one identity, one community. This is the main goals of ASEAN to create the common identities. So the Songkran festivals that we about to have a discussions today, it's based on these ASEAN socio-cultural communities. As we know that when we're talking about ASEAN, the relationships in Southeast Asians, we always talk about the politics things. We always talk about conflicts. We always talk about another issues, migrations, and many things about politics and economic cooperations. But we always overlook the people-to-people relationships, which can be connected to the festivals or traditions, which is one of the key factors in the ASEAN socio-cultural communities. And the last one, you can see that it's called a dynamic and harmonious community that is aware and proud of its identity. So the goals of this kind of ideas concept by using the festival to connect the peoples is to create the proud of the common identity. So we will have the sense of belonging together in the community through this kind of shared culture. So the first, the sessions that now we are going to begin is called the common unique of water festivals in ASEAN under the 4 themes through the music, performance, histories, and tourism. So first of all, I would like to introduce our honorable speaker today first. First one is Miss Kit Jones, the founders of Burmese College Guitar Mets Music Centers, who also have the experience in Thailand as well. So you can see experience a lot of shared cultures. And followed by the Mr. Sam An Sam. So the Chancellor of Panasatra Universities of Cambodia. So he will explain us about like performance that how it's related to Songkran festivals. And the third speaker is Dr. Surat Jongdas about the histories and belief that shares in during the Songkran festivals. And the last speaker, Mr. Surapun Sawet-Sedni, the former governor of tourism authorities of Thailand, that he will elaborate how these festivals associate with tourism policies as well. So first of all, I would like to call for Miss Kit Youngs, the founders of the Burmese College in Burmese Music Center, so Mingalaba. So could you please briefly introduce yourself? Thank you.
Thank you อาจารย์สวัสดีค่ะขอบคุณมากค่ะ and thank you to all the wonderful audience to see ASEAN and to ASEAN for bringing us together to share knowledge and experiences about New Year and water festivals, variously called in different cultures, together. So I was a child in the 1960s when my father was appointed by President Kennedy to be the ambassador to Thailand. And we were in Thailand for 3 years. We spent 2 of those years in Chiang Mai we were asked to come up to Chiang Mai to celebrate Songkran in Chiang Mai. And this scene that you see is a picture from 1966. So it's a little bit later than when I was there. But I remember it so well. This is the Khao Navarat bridge, train bridge. And so many people would come to the river to celebrate Songkran in Chiang Mai, and there was no water in the river, right? It was very low because it's dry season. So that sparked a memory in me. Sorry, I'm moving on a little bit too forward. There, this is another view of downtown. So this is exactly where I would have been as a kid, with everybody celebrating. And just to draw the distinction between Songkran in those times, which was very gentle. No hoses, no water guns. It was quite civilized, one might say. Older people might say. And
civilized. Okay.
So it was gentle. Let's just say it that way.
Okay, gentle.
But a wonderful festival, and then singing at night and dancing at night. So I say that as an introduction to my experience of the Ja or Thin Ja, 2 ways to pronounce the New Year festival in Burma, Myanmar. So everything that I say about Myanmar will be related to what I was experiencing as a child, both in Chiang Mai and then as an adult later living in Bangkok. So that's what I would like to share with you all about that period. To make the transition to Myanmar, I will, let's see, move forward a little bit to this flower, which I think so many people know as Pradu in Thai, the Badat flower that is used in
Badat flower in Burmese, right? So
Pradu, it's similar.
Yeah, it's similar.
So this has become a national symbol of this flower because it blooms on the one day, and I'm not sure. I'm sure in Cambodia similarly, it's very familiar. The Burmese use it as a symbol of New Year's and the Jan festival.
I see. So I would like you to elaborate more how the local Chiang Mai people can you explain us more how do they like celebrate in the local way? Means like what you can see that distinguished from the central. Yeah.
So I lived also in Chiang Mai for 5 years, and at that point, when we were living there in the 1990s into the 2000s, it was like Bangkok. There was not from my perspective, having experienced it as a child, the Songkran was an urban Songkran. And so there was a lot of celebration, a lot of music, a lot of radios, a lot of, powder in the streets and so much water. But the idea of Songkran as a receiving a blessing, as the changing of the year, as a Buddhist ceremony, as a more serious event, cultural event, and familial event, is harder to see when you're just looking at the water throwing. And so I think that's probably something that will come up in our discussion tonight. I know Samang will talk about that too. How a festival can take on meanings that are a little more, shall we say, entertaining, but that the origin of the festival, the deeper meaning of why it's happening, is there, but it's embedded. So particularly for outsiders, sometimes they're not as aware of some of those meanings, and so it's an educational experience to think of all of the symbolism of both the water, the passing of the new year, the forgiving of sins, the making merit from blessings, and the hope that crops in the dry season, that when the rains come, will succeed, and that the water will bring everybody together through a new year.
So since you mentioned about musics just now, so how musics as the musicians, so how the musics involved to this Songkran festival?
So of course, I mean, I yield the floor for Thailand to Ajahn Sorat and others. In Burma, in Myanmar, and I'll talk about this a little bit later when we get into it, but the idea of the newness of the festival also spills over into the newness of songs being composed for the Jang. So many composers will write specific songs specifically for the new year with specific themes and titles, and having to do both with romance, with all these other themes, with newness, with water, with solidarity, with family, and there are competitions. It's a big business in Myanmar. Recording studios are very happy to get new recordings by famous artists. They all have new recordings that come out during the Jang, and they perform them during the days of the Jang outdoors in what's called a mandal, a pandal in Anglo-Indian. So it's a very exciting time, both artistically and for all the other reasons that I just sort of briefly covered.
So could you please, since you know about music, could you please demonstrate some, give us the samples of the songs, of the rhymes? How do they song during the Dingjang festival?
So there are many songs. There is a composer, very famous composer in Myanmar, Myomang Nying, and his grandson actually is my student. I'm not a singer, but I'll try to sing a little bit for you.
Okay.
I'm a pianist. But what's so interesting is that he started a band in 1925 in Mandalay, and the band became well known, and the band would come out and play, and they had a float, and on the float there was a swan, and there were women and men that would come out, young women, young men that would come out and learn new songs and rehearse, and then go around the city on this float for 4 or 5 hours and sing, and the band would play. That became such a tradition. It's central to the Jang in Mandalay, and the dancing and the singing of those particular songs with that band, it's still going on. So I just wanted to, I was talking earlier with Professor Samang Sam about syllables and drums. So the song that I'm going to share with you has to do with actually the drums that are tuned in Myanmar, which are called chalomba, which are 6 drums with different pitches. There was a famous drummer, Uladin, in the early 50s who was experimenting with some of the rhythmic patterns for a dancer that later became part of the conservatory dance technique. And the drum sound that came out that they celebrated, that Myanmar wrote the lyrics to, was tupo, 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 tupo. So there are drum syllables, dopi, 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 tatje, tatje, tat, tat, tat. And these what the Burmese called mouth music or bazasang, became really popular. And so a movie called The Jammo came out in 1969 using this tune. So I'll sing a little bit of it. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not a singer. The Jamme mya tu tu po tu tham yu ta ya. Tin Jamme mya tu po ma ye no pya. When an tan so tu po ayon pyo pye da. So girls and guys, come out together, let's celebrate, and let's celebrate this wonderful sound of tupo, tupo, which would have been played on the float. The silver swan is out there, everybody's singing together, let's really have fun. So as you see, there's no mention of water, right? So we're talking about dancing so far. So there's lines of women dancing and lines of men dancing together. And at the very end, it's a little bit naughty. Ladies, come and dance together, but make sure you keep the guys away. So that's just the first verse, and there's a second verse about the badao. So it's to indicate the importance of each song for each year, and how songs and the traditions of composing songs became just generally done and part of the cultural celebration of the Jam. And in Thailand, some of the Songkran song that is similar, right? That has to do actually with the sounds of the tone pa cha is in that Songkran song, right? Non nai cha. Ton pa, ton ton. So what's so interesting is that element of music making and of dancing and of celebrating, right, is a cultural element. It's a principle. It's something that's always looked forward to, by everybody for the whole year.
So the rhymes, you're trying to saying the rhymes, the ways that we try to create the rhymes or rhythms for the drum is very similar to Thailand's. How about the rest? Like in Laos and others, Myanmar and Southeast Asia, do you found any similarities with the Tinjan in Myanmar or not?
So the similarity, in general similarities that Professor Samang Sam will and everybody else will mention in greater depth. Yes, generally, there in Tinjan in Tinjan, if we say Tinjan, it is the same word as Songkran, which means from Sanskrit, Sankrati. So Sankrati is the movement of the sun from Pisces to Aries. And when the change in astronomy and the change in the earth brings a new year, that is the movement, right? That Songkran refers to, actually. And then there's another over meaning, the Jamin, or the Lord of Indra, the Lord of rain, is also celebrated at the same time. So there you have two cultures that are mixed together, right? So you have Hindu culture mixing with what becomes Buddhist traditions, overlay. And I'm so fascinated by how this happens all over, right? So that different cultures bring in different stories and different origin myths. So the Jamin, so the first evening of the Jan in Myanmar, in the south and north and different areas, is called Jone, which is the prelude to the Jan, and you go to receive blessings from monks, you make offerings, you pour water on the Buddha image, small Buddha image that's in the pagoda. The next day is the beginning of the Jan, and that's when Indra, the god Indra, comes down to earth and blesses the earth with water. The third day is the middle day, when water is celebrated as a way of bringing up crops, to celebrate fertility, to think of the future, and to wash away sins. The fourth day, the Jiaming goes back up to heaven, and the fifth day of the Jian is when families visit with each other and you visit the elderly. And I remember that from Chiang Mai from when I was a child, to receive blessings from your elders and to make New Year's resolutions and to resolve any problems that you had in the past and look forward to a new year. So I'm sure that's the same.
So in Tazan, in Myanmar, they have like 5 days. Am I right?
5 or 6.
5 or 6 days. That's pretty long holidays. Because in Thailand we have 3 days basically. Yes. So we have. Yes, I can see. So for you, so you see, you have been living in betweens like Burmese cultures as well as the Thai local Chiang Mai culture. So since we also already emphasize about the similarities already. So what do you think is the charms about the similarities of the charms of the local identities that you have been experienced both countries?
Let's see. In both countries, the energy of young people, I think, is what carries, right, the festival and the playfulness of the festival and how people have prepared for so long just to take a break and go home and visit with family. I know from being in ASEAN in Thailand how important that is for migrant workers to go back and be able to be with their relatives at that time. So like Chinese New Year, right? It's a time of joy. It's a time of togetherness, and so the playfulness is really important, particularly in hard times and difficult times.
So thank you for the first speaker. Thank you so much. So let's move on to Jason Dimbade anyway. Okay. So let's move on to the next speaker. So the next speaker is Dr. Samang Sam, the Chancellor of Panasatra Universities, Cambodia. So he will give the talks about the Chom Chanam Khmer. Okay. Very difficult to pronounce for me. So okay, correct me if I'm wrong. So anyway, so bad. Okay, so sorry. Okay. So the first questions I would like to ask is about, could you please introduce yourself?
First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank ASEAN for organizing this event and giving me the opportunity to participate, to share some of my ideas, experiences, and also culture and tradition of Cambodia among our friends in the mainland Southeast Asia in particular. My name is Samang Sam. I am the Chancellor of the Panasastra University of Cambodia. I also serve as the advisor to the Ministry of Culture and Fine Arts of the Kingdom of Cambodia. I am actually an educator, a musician, an ethnomusicologist, and researcher. Now, in line with the purpose of this panel, that is raising awareness, shared cultural identity, inspiration for tourist destination, and preserve the local ways, culture, and environment, and also the topic that is common and unique, water festival in ASEAN. I would like to address the two situations together because, in fact, when we say Chol Chanam Khmer or the New Year, that is different from water festival, at least in Cambodia. In Cambodia, the Khmer equivalent of Pi Mai in Laos or Songkran or water festival in Thailand, as described in the program, is Chol Chanam Khmer. That is actually Khmer New Year. For that reason, I'm going to address the water festival as well. In fact, the two major celebrations are prescribed in the manual of royal ceremonies of the 12 months and have been celebrated in Cambodia for millennia. Chorchnam Khmer, or the Khmer New Year, is the most important and picturesque Khmer traditional holiday of the year. It is the liveliest festival period across the country. Millions of Cambodians travel to their hometowns or provinces during this time. It is time for resolution and changes for the better. It is time for cleaning the house, paying off debt, celebration, traditional games and dances and more. And as we have the common heritage and tradition of celebrating the Pimai or Songkran or Khmer, Chorchnam Khmer, the first day is the entry to the new year. In Cambodia, we call Songkran. The second day is the Vanabat day. The middle day, which divides the old and the new day. And the third day is Ngai Virat Langsa, the day of the promotion to which a new era is added. Now, in terms of process and activity, during the New Year entry day, each house, everyone is dressed well, congregating in front of the shrine while waiting for the sound of the holy drums, or we call skotom, like roaring from a distant pagoda to officially announce the arrival of the new year. In the meantime, ritual ceremonies begin at the temple or at the house. Candles placed on the shrine are lit and incense sticks are burned. Members of the family pay homage to offer thanks to the Buddha's teaching by bowing, kneeling, and prostrating themselves 3 times before the Buddha's image, including the worshipping of the Tripitaka, or we call Pratai Beda, or the triple gem. They recite prayers to welcome the new Devada or angel who take the responsibility to take care of humankind and being for the entire year. They also pray and wipe their faces with the holy water. Before noon, people prepare and take food to the nearest pagoda to offer them to the monks and invite them to pray for the spirit of ancestors. People know the name of each Devada or angel, her clothing, jewelry, food, weapons, and form of transportation. This year, 2021, is the year of the ox. It will fall on Wednesday, April the 14th at 4 a.m. and will end on Friday at the 16th at 7:37 a.m. Now, the color of the dress of this year angel is lime green, Silip lime green, and therefore people dress or decorate their house accordingly, according to the color of the day, that is Wednesday. In terms of activities that I will stress more perhaps, we find traditional food, traditional games, traditional and folk dance and music, particularly the trot dance. I'm going to talk about that a little bit, what the trot dance is, and other entertainment, including pop music and dance as well. And for the interest of this panel, in terms of water, the water plashing is a small part of that. And in Cambodia, we do not really encourage, for example, the use of water gun or water splashing for several reasons. Because sometimes while doing that, the passers-by may get injured because of the destruction of the trouble, so on and so forth. Now, as the new year, after the third day, the fourth day on, people return to their daily lives and normal occupation. However, the new year and its spirit are not get over and continue normally among people. A couple of points that I'm going to continue is that, first of all, during the Khmer New Year or Chol Cham Khmer, there are several activities, and I will focus on the performances, but I would like to start with the traditional game. Traditional games are an important part of the Khmer New Year's activity. So we play many games such as tossing the softball or hiding the softball, and jumping the rope, so on and so forth, participated by particularly the youth of Cambodia. There is one important point that I want to stress, that during the Chochnam Khmer, two particular music ensembles are very prominent. One is the Pinpiet ensemble, and I mentioned earlier that Pinpiet is the counterpart of the Thai Pipat ensemble, and that is a religious ensemble in some nature, and it is used to be accompanying other activities, or sometimes it is played as a background or ambient music to the temple and temple atmosphere. And the other ensemble is Chayam. Chayam is the long drum ensemble which has comic character that people play to enhance the ceremony. In terms of performing arts, and here I connect both the Chochnam Khmer and also the water festival called Bon Om Tu. The type of performing arts items that are used in both events are not very much different. For example, there are set of theaters like the Beijing opera type of theater, and which has been localized to what we call in Khmer Lakhon Basak or Basak theater, or the mass play theater similar to the Thai Cone. And we also have shadow play performed, like the Thai counterpart would be Nang Yai, Nang Thalung, and all that. So we perform those things, and many type of dances, including court dances, folk dances, and popular dances. And of course, that also comes with many type of music, classical music, folk music, and also popular music, accompany the popular dance like Rom Vung or Rom Kbach, Saravan, so on and so forth. Now, what is important in terms of spirit of the New Year, and to a certain extent the water festival, is that it is time for food and drink, enjoyment, and also time of family gathering, and also time of renewal of friendship, of commitment, and time for a resolution. I think I'm going to stop right here, and perhaps could moderator can ask me question.
Okay, so I would like to ask, like, so according to the Chanam Chamay, right? Chanam something. Chom Chanam, sorry, I apologize about that. So Chochnam in Khmer. So could you please, according to your knowledge and also your experience about this particular New Year's, do you see any similarities or shared cultures that can be found in Cambodia and Thailand?
The answer is yes. There are a lot of aspects that are shared by and among our nation, particularly Thailand and Laos, and also Myanmar. Because the tradition is rooted in in Buddhism, and we also base, I think if we have time, we talk about the detail that is based on the lunar calendar and also on the solar calendar, all that. Now, what Ajahn previously talked about, for example, the mounting of the mountain of sand and all that. Those are the activities and events that prescribed within the tradition of the Thai Songkran. By the way, Thai Songkran, in Khmer, we also have the same word without a tone. We call Songkran. And as I mentioned earlier, Songkran happens or falls during the first day of the New Year festival. And for that reason, we are doing a lot of things the same way or similar way among these countries.
Okay, so these are we can see, right? So may I wrap up everything? Okay, so you have any things for the concluding remarks?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing because I think it's very important, and that is whether or not in Cambodia or in mainland Southeast Asia, I think the commonality and the uniqueness is that, for example, when we say water festival, we refer to the event that happened in the month of November. And then the Songkran or Songkran that happened during the month of April, we do not refer to that event or celebration as water festival, although as I mentioned earlier as well, that water splashing is a small part of that event. That I think perhaps that is the uniqueness in the practice in our country.
So, okay, thank you for sharing about this. So, I would like to conclude everything about from the Cambodia side about like, so the thing is that happens, the uniqueness about like traditional performance during the Songkran festivals is have like combined of like theater performance, have like mass play theaters and shadow play, and it's called spectrum, right? Spectrum, right? Or in Thai we call nang yai. We can see this kind of theater will be performed during the Songkran festival to see the audience, because we can see, right, during Songkran festivals everybody will go back to their homeland and hometowns, and they will have to gather up. So when have a lot of people, right, so people can enjoy the activities together. So the importance is the spirit of this new year is kind of enjoyment and renewing of the commitments and many things more. It's the time of the compromise and changes of many things. So like, and also how this kind of resolutions is going to happen. So not just only throughout the performance that you performance these, but also the traditional games like tossing the softballs, or jumping with the balls, or this kind of activities that create the relaxed moments or like happiness moments to all of the people who live within the societies. So, and also more and more we have like another similars with the ideas with other countries in Southeast Asia, in mainland Southeast Asia especially, such as the Buddhism's lunar calendars and solar calendars, like have the same things. But in Cambodia, as the New Year's, they just the significance of the Cambodian New Year's or during Songkran, as we know, water is not the main things that we see in Tingjan or we see in Songkran in Thailand or in another part in Laos as well, but it's a play of very important roles in the waters. But instead of the water during the Khmer New Year, Songkran is like more about the family times and also the enjoyment of the resolutions that people we have a chance to talk, we have a chance to interactions during the spacious occasion. So thank you, Mr. Dr. Sam'an from the Chancellor of Panasatra Universities of Unbat. Okay, we'll move on to the next speaker first. So I would like to introduce Dr. Surat Jongda. He is the Associations of Presidents of Pandit Patana Sins Institute. So he is originally came from Isan's area before he works in Bangkok. So he's very familiar with Laos, Isan's cultures, especially the borders cultures that we have shared. เชิญเลยครับผมเสื้อสวยนะครับ
สวัสดีครับดร.สุรัตน์จงดานะครับบัณฑิตพัฒนศิลป์อินทิดิวนะครับ จากกระทรวงวัฒนธรรมนะครับ
So okay, he introduced himself that he also work in the Ministry of Cultures as well and the Bandit Pathanasin. Bandit Pathanasin is the institute about the dancing and performance and everything that relate to Thai cultures. ต่อเลยครับผู้ไก่
ครับผมถ้าพูดถึงสงกรานต์นะครับซึ่งในเชิงประวัติศาสตร์ก็คงจะเหมือนกันทั้งพม่าทั้งกัมพูชาและของไทยนะครับรวมไปถึงของลาวด้วยนะครับแต่ทีเนี้ยอย่างในตัวผมเองจะขอพูดอยู่2ลักษณะก็คือว่าเป็นลักษณะของสงกรานต์ในระดับประชาชนหรือระดับกลุ่มชนที่เป็นชาวบ้านนะครับสิ่งที่เราเห็นในปัจจุบันเนี่ยไม่ว่าจะเป็นที่เชียงใหม่หรือกรุงเทพหรือว่าทั่วไปที่ผ่านสื่อเนี่ยส่วนใหญ่มันก็จะเป็นสงกรานต์ในรูปแบบของการที่จัดเป็นงานอีเวนต์หรือการพัฒนารูปแบบของสงกรานต์นะครับซึ่งต่อไปเนี่ยพี่เล็กสุรพลจะได้พูดถึงเรื่องของการพัฒนารูปของการท่องเที่ยวสงกรานต์ไปนะครับแต่ว่าผมจะพูดถึงในมิติของกลุ่มชนก่อนนะครับในส่วนตัวเองเนี่ยจะมี2มิติก็คือว่าจากมิติคนที่มาจากท้องถิ่นหรือชนบทดั้งเดิมและอีกมิติหนึ่งคือผู้ที่มาสร้างสรรค์งานสงกรานต์ในเชิงอีเวนต์เพื่อรองรับตลาดการท่องเที่ยวของประเทศไทยนะครับ
Okay, Cap. So first of all, he would like to separate the topics into two topics because we have the mainstream Songkran, so we know that is kind of the events, like a party events that we can see in Bangkok, like foam parties or whatever. But he would like to point out another perspective of the Songkran. It's not another event, it's also how the local context see Songkran นะครับโอเคต่อเลยครับ
ซึ่งถ้าพูดถึงระดับชนบทอย่างผมในอีสานเนี่ยนะครับก็จะเห็นว่าเป็นสงกรานต์คงจะเหมือนกันทั้งพม่าทั้งกัมพูชาทั้งไทยทั้งลาวนะครับก็คือเป็นวันที่ในหน้าร้อนที่ทุกคนไม่มีภารกิจที่ต้องทำและรอคอยวันที่ถึงวันที่เฉลิมฉลองในหน้าร้อนนะครับก็คือเทศกาลสงกรานต์นะครับแต่ว่ามันก็จะมีรายละเอียดปลีกย่อยของท้องถิ่นต่างๆกันไปนะครับซึ่งสงกรานต์นี้ถ้าพูดถึงในมิติของครอบครัวก็ได้ในมิติของศาสนาก็ได้ในมิติของความเชื่อก็ได้ครับ
So in the local context so in Isan because he familiar with Isan he said like if talking about the local context is also related to in Burmese cultures in Laos cultures and in Thai culture as well so it's a celebration during the hottest seasons which is summer which is a very hot season so it's the same context about like out of waters and also we can see throughout many dimensions first off you can see throughout the religious dimensions throughout the family dimensions as well so ต่อเลยครับ
ผมจะแบ่งอย่างในครอบครัวผมเนี่ยหรือในสังคมที่บ้านเนี่ยสงกรานต์เนี่ยถ้าพูดถึงได้มันจะมีอยู่ลักษณะของถ้าแบ่งเป็นลานหรือกิจกรรมเนี่ยมันจะมีอยู่3กิจกรรมหรือ3ลานด้วยกันก็คือ1กิจกรรมในครอบครัวผมจะเรียกว่าเป็นลานบ้านก็แล้วกันนะครับ2กิจกรรมที่เรียกว่าลานวัดก็คือเกี่ยวกับศาสนานะครับอีกอันนึงก็คือกิจกรรมที่เรียกว่าลานผีก็คือเป็นความเชื่อนะฮะซึ่งทั้ง3กิจกรรมเนี่ยจะถูกผนวกกันในวันสงกรานต์นะครับซึ่งนอกจากลานที่เป็นลานบ้านลานวัดแล้วก็ลานผีเนี่ยแม้แต่ในสังคมภาคกลางหรือสังคมกรุงเทพแต่เดิมก็มีลักษณะของ3กิจกรรมนี้เหมือนกันนะครับก็คือมีอะไรบ้างลานบ้านเนี่ยก็คือกิจกรรมในครอบครัวนะครับที่เราปฏิบัติกันอยู่แล้วทั้งสงกรานต์ทั่วภูมิภาคของอาเซียนนะครับไม่ว่าจะเป็นการกลับบ้านนะครับการไปหาพ่อแม่นะครับการที่จะต้องไปอาบน้ำนะครับอาบน้ำพ่อปู่ย่าตายายนะครับเราใช้คำว่าอาบน้ำนะฮะไม่ใช่รดน้ำดำหัวนะฮะบ้านเราเนี่ยเรียกว่าถ้าเป็นศัพท์สูงเราก็เรียกว่าสงน้ำนะครับซึ่งเมื่อกี้อาร์ตและอาจารย์คริสพูดถึงทางไทยใหญ่ทางอะไรเขาจะมีสงน้ำเจ้าหลวงใช่ไหมฮะของบ้านเราเนี่ยคืออาบน้ำปู่ย่าตายายเลยนะฮะปู่ย่าตายายสังคมเราอาบจริงๆก็คือเอาน้ำอาบขัดขี้ใครถูสบู่สระผมให้ใช่ไหมครับเช็ดตัวนะครับจับมาทาแป้งจับเอาเสื้อผ้าใหม่นะครับไปถวายซึ่งเราจะจัดดอกไม้เนี่ยเขาเรียกว่าขันห้าเนี่ยบูชาก่อนด้วยนะครับแล้วก็จับมาอาบน้ำเลยนั่งเรียงกันนะครับลูกหลานจับคนเฒ่าคนแก่มานั่งเรียงกันแล้วอาบน้ำซึ่งในสังคมเมืองภายหลังเนี่ยมันกลายเป็นว่าแค่เอาน้ำไปลดที่มือนะแต่ว่าสังคมดั้งเดิมเราเนี่ยคือการจับคนแก่เนี่ยหรือพ่อแม่ปู่ย่าตายายมาอาบน้ำกันจริงๆสระผมอาบน้ำนะครับมีการเฉลิมฉลองหรือการทำ กับข้าวกินกันนะครับมีการรื่นเริงในสังคมนี่ก็คือลานบ้านนะครับทีนี้ต่อไปก็คือลานวัดนะครับลานวัดเนี่ยจะเป็นลักษณะของเรื่องของพิธีกรรมด้วยแล้วก็เป็นการละเล่นด้วยนะครับทำไมต้องเป็นพิธีกรรมกับการละเล่นเพราะว่าเราจะมีการสงน้ำพระใช่ไหมครับเราก็แบ่งกันว่าอย่างทางอีสานหรือทางเหนือนี่ก็จะมีวันหนึ่งที่วันเอาพระลงนะครับเรียกว่าวันเอาพระลงก็คือเรื่องของวันที่ต้องเชิญพระพุทธรูปสำคัญหรือพระพุทธศักดิ์สิทธิ์เนี่ยถ้าเป็นทางเหนือทางเชียงใหม่เขาจะมีการแห่นะครับในอีสานเนี่ยจะมีการเชิญตั้งมณฑปใช่ไหมฮะก็คือตั้งศาลาเพื่อจะเอาพระลงนะครับเอาพระลงแล้ววันนั้นจะเป็นวันสงน้ำพระนะฮะต้องสงน้ำพระพุทธรูปก่อนนะครับแล้ววันสุดท้ายเนี่ยวันเนาหรือวันเนานู่นถึงจะถึงสงน้ำพระสงฆ์นะครับทีนี้ลานวัดนอกจากมีการกิจกรรมของการทำบุญในตอนเช้าที่ทำบุญตักบาตรตามประเพณีนะฮะแล้วก็จะมีการสงน้ำพระพุทธรูปใช่ไหมครับสงน้ำพระสงฆ์ใช่ไหมครับแล้วก็อีกอันนึงก็คือสงน้ำกูหรือเจดีย์ที่ใส่อัฐิบรรพบุรุษใช่ไหมฮะหรือทำบังสกุลใช่ไหมฮะบรรพบุรุษที่วัดแต่อีกอันนึงที่น่าสนใจมากในสังคมอีสานก็คือว่าเมื่อทำบุญเสร็จปุ๊บในช่วงบ่ายเนี่ยจะมีกิจกรรมการละเล่นเกมนะฮะเกมที่ลานวัดแล้วเกมตัวเนี้ยวันนั้นจะเป็นวันที่อนุญาตให้พระและเนนมาเล่นกับเด็กหรือเล่นกับผู้หญิงได้ด้วยนะครับมันเหมือนกับเป็นเกมเพื่อปลดปล่อย อย่างหนึ่งนะฮะพระเนนหนุ่มสาวเด็กเนี่ยสามารถเล่นเกมด้วยกันได้นะครับแล้วก็เล่นเลยเถิดไปจนถึงว่าสาวๆเนี่ยสามารถไล่ปล้ำพระด้วยก็ได้นะครับในสังคมอีสานโบราณเนี่ยคือเล่นเกมกันเลยนะครับเล่นเกมเสือกินวัวเอาพระจับมือกันเลยกับสาวๆเนี่ยจับมือแล้วก็มีเสือมีวัวป้องกันการออกนะฮะเล่นต่อไก่นะฮะเล่นกระทั่งว่าพระเนี่ยโดนดินทาหรือเอาแป้งทาพระยังได้นะฮะอันนี้ก็จะเป็นมันก็เป็นพิเศษอย่างหนึ่งในเทศกาลสงกรานต์นะฮะก็คือเป็นการเหมือนกับว่าอนุญาตให้พระเนรเนี่ยมาคุกคลีกับหนุ่มสาวได้นะครับเหมือนการปลดปล่อยสำหรับคนที่อยู่ในกรอบประเพณีอันหนึ่งนี่ก็คือลานวัดนะลานวัดนี่จะเป็นเรื่องสำคัญมากเพราะว่าเราจัดกิจกรรมเนี้ยแต่ว่าการเล่นน้ำตอนเป็นเด็กเนี่ยเราจะไม่ค่อยเล่นที่บ้านเราจะไปเล่นที่ลานวัดนะฮะลานวัดเล่นกับพระเนรเนี่ยเล่นด้วยกันหมดพระหนุ่มๆนะฮะนี่ก็คือลานวัดนี่คือแบ่งเป็น2กิจกรรมลานวัดนะครับอีกลานหนึ่งนะครับอาร์ตตามให้ทันนะ อีกลานหนึ่งเรียกว่าลานผีหรือลานความเชื่อนะลานผีหรือลานความเชื่อเนี่ยในสงกรานต์อย่างในชนบทอีสานหรือยกตัวอย่างบ้านผมเองเนี่ยมันจะมีกิจกรรมอันหนึ่งที่เรียกว่าการเข้าทรงผีจะเรียกตามท้องถิ่นว่าเป็นผีทรงผีฟ้าผีแถนหรือผีเจ้านายก็ได้ตรงเนี้ยจะมีลานอันหนึ่งที่เรียกว่าลานขวงเหมือนกันขวงคือบริเวณเนี้ยตรงนี้จะเป็นคนที่นับถือผีด้วยกันที่จะมาไล่ลำด้วยกันถึง7วันนะฮะคือตั้งแต่เช้าเนี่ยตลอด7วันนะฮะในช่วงสงกรานต์นะฮะคือตั้งแต่เช้าเลยกินข้าวเสร็จก็ลำไปมีแคนตัวหนึ่งแล้วก็ไล่ลำร้องขับร้องลำในขวงนั้นน่ะตลอดตรงเนี้ยก็จะเป็นลานผีที่ถึงวันหนึ่งเขาต้องมาทำพิธีด้วยกันหมดลำด้วยกันแล้วตรงนี้สำคัญมากก็คือเป็นลานที่ให้ผู้หญิงเนี่ยส่วนใหญ่คนที่ลำฟ้อนผีนั่นน่ะจะเป็นผู้หญิงเพื่ออะไรและในลานกิจกรรมฟ้อนผีนั้นในสงกรานต์เนี่ยผู้หญิงมีสิทธิ์ในการที่จะแสดงออกอะไรก็ได้แล้วมีสิทธิ์ใหญ่มากในลานผีนั้นผู้ชายจะไม่มีสิทธิ์ที่จะเหยียบย่างเข้าไปในลานผีนั้นเลยมีก็เป็นแค่เข้าไปฟ้อนผีแล้วก็จะเป็นบริวารของผู้หญิงนะครับอันนี้มันจะเป็นเหตุสำคัญอันนี้มันอยู่ในวิจัยระดับปริญญาโทผมด้วยว่าการฟ้อนลำในลานผีนั่นน่ะทำให้ผู้หญิงมีสิทธิ์ปีหนึ่งน่ะผู้หญิงจะสามารถกินเหล้าได้ฟ้อนลำได้จะกลิ้งเกือกแสดงอาการอะไรก็ได้หรือจะร้องห่มร้องไห้พรรณนาทุกโศกของตัวเองต่อเชื้อสายผีของตัวเองก็ได้นะครับซึ่งตรงนี้ก็จะเป็น3ลานกิจกรรมลานผีนี่น่าสนใจมากว่าในภาคกลางของไทยนะแต่เดิมก็มีลานผีนั้นก็คือในมีการพิธีเข้าทรงในสงกรานต์อันนึงแต่ว่าปัจจุบันหายไปแล้วในภาคกลางคือการเข้าทรงผีแม่สีแม่สีนะครับซึ่งอาจารย์คิดคงได้ยินคำว่าแม่สีใช่ไหมเป็นเพลงหนึ่งที่อยู่ในฉุยฉายใช่ไหมฮะก็คือเป็นการมาจากเพลงเข้าทรงแม่สีนี่แหละฮะ ก็คือแม่สีแม่สีสาวสะยกมือไหว้พระแล้วจะมีคนชมเนี่ยเขาถ้าเป็นภาคกลางเนี่ยก็จะเอาครกมาตั้งใช่ไหมในสงกรานต์แล้วก็ผู้หญิงสวยเนี่ยมานั่งแต่งตัวสวยงามผูกตาดอกไม้ทูบเทียนใส่มือแล้วร้องเพลงแม่สีตีไม้ตะขาบนะเคาะไม้ตะขาบเหมือนกันแล้วก็เชิญผีลงนะฮะเชิญผีแม่สีลงในช่วงสงกรานต์แล้วแม่สีก็จะไล่รำนะครับจากการเข้าทรงแม่สีเนี่ยมันก็กลายเป็นเพลงแม่สีในรำฉุยฉายที่เราใช้นะครับในสังคมมอญก็มีเหมือนกันในสังคมมอญในกรุงในภาคกลางของประเทศไทยเนี่ยก็มีการเข้าทรงผีมอญหรือฟ้อนผีมอญในช่วงสงกรานต์เหมือนกันนะครับก็จะเห็นว่าในสังคมไทยแต่ดั้งเดิมเนี่ยก็จะมีลานเนี่ย3 ลานที่ผมสรุปได้ก็คือ 1. ลานครอบครัวหรือลานบ้าน 2. ลานวัดหรือกิจกรรมที่เกี่ยวเนื่องด้วยศาสนาด้วยกับเกมด้วยนะครับ 3. ก็คือลานความเชื่อหรือลานฟ้อนผีนะครับ
So to begin with, he has divided into 3 spheres that involved in Songkran festival, especially in the local Isans that share with a lot of things with the Laos culture in a current time. So the first one that he introduced is the house activities, the household sections. I would like to say sections. So besides like you visiting parents, one of the astonishings during the times of Songkran is bathing your parents. Sounds like a spa, right? But it's not. It's a part of the rituals in Isan's area. So what bathing's the parents like shows you have gratitude to them, so they use the water as a symbolism to according to him, he said that the parents they were sitting on the chairs and they will use the water to wash them, and you can watch like you are washing yourself, you're taking your bathings, something like that. So and also we also during the taking the bath and also we have some kind of ceremonies called Khanha also will be will be involved in this kind of activity as well. And also you can see, right, the difference between the local Isan compared to the central, because the centrals we just use the water to pour over the hands of the parents to show the gratitude to as a symbols of blessings. But in Isan province they have more advanced, right? So they bathe in the middle of the people, so you can see, so they use the water to bathe like that as well. And move on the second sphere, which is the temples, the religious sphere, like you say, or Lan Wat in Thai. So it's the besides it's also it mentions about all the activities that relate to that will be conducted in the temples, such as folk games. Also bring the Buddha to the processions or create to the processions to pouring the waters as for the blessings, or move on to the Buddha image into the mondop. Mondop is some kind of small pavilions. I think you have seen before that you enshrine the Buddhas for temporarily. So they will when the processions then move into the cities, right? They will use that mondop to carry on the Buddhas, or you can use the mondop to place the Buddhas over there. So my experience, can you see, right, in Isans, the way that they pouring the water to the Buddhas, they will use the wrong pipe. Yeah, so they use this kind of water to pouring, and the water will flow to the pipes and will stop into the Buddha image. Or sometimes they will use this kind of ceremony for the real monks. The monk was sitting there in the very close place, and the people who would like to making merry, they will use the water to watch, to bathing the monks. And also not only the peoples, we also pouring the waters for the blessing to the cemeteries of the passed away parents. So in Thai and Laos cultures, we have this calledกูนี่ก็คือเหมือนเป็นโกฐไหม
ไม่ใช่โกฐเป็นเจดีย์เล็ก
เป็น JD, it's a small pagodas. If you never seen, you might have seen in some temples the one that placed near to the wall of the temple. So we have to share scriptures about that. So people will bring the waters and pour the waters over that or the small pagodas that enshrines the bones, the ash of the passed away ancestor. And also, and this day is a very marked as a very important, it's like a very freedom days to everything. It's like, I don't want to say it's a purge, but it sounds like they will allow all the monks and the ordinary people to participate in the game. So in many like in were literally translated as tiger eats a cow, something like that. So this kind of activities normally in Theravada Buddhisms, Thai allows monks are not allowed to touch the females, but this day is like a freedom day. You can do whatever you want, but and also you can have like interactions with the opposite sex and many things in that days, but with the control in the temple as well. It's some kind of like uplift day, like for the exceptional day for the rules and regulations accordingly to Buddhism. This is the outer sphere of the temple spheres. I move on the last one, the Lan Pi. I would like to translate as the animism sphere. So during these times, we also have this kind of activities that also relate to exorcisms, right? Exorcisms of like by using dancing as the key of transformations between other worlds together, dancing together. And most of the dancers are females because they believe that females have a power of something that connects with the another world. So females is considered as the very sacred during the times to become like to the dance. And we will do exorcisms like to ask for the P10. P10 is like one of the king of the great influence of the animisms is some kind of like, because in the past I would like to express more. A P is not just a ghost, literally translated. A P is some kind of like the people who have a power. It's not a ghost like in the Hollywood films that you see from James Bond. It's not that kind of ghost. But the ghost in the Thai context or Laos context is like the great, like the great spirits that help the people. But before and later on, P was what's deducted. I don't want to say deducted. It's what changed the status lower than Buddhism and Brahminisms or the Hinduism later on. Anyway, so P in the times like it was the females. So because we in the original Southeast Asia belief like women have this kind of powers, and in this day, women have a lot of freedom expressions. On the times you can demonstrate anything. They can talk about their life. They can order something. So you can see like Southeast Asians have a very advanced freedom expression since the past. You can see, right? So women can do everything in this day because they believe that women is a sacred gender in this context. And also we have another exorcisms in it's called Messi. So they will use the ไม้ตะขาบคืออะไรครูไก่คือ
ไม้ไผ่ยาวๆ
Oh, okay, it's the bamboo. They will have to hit it in order to call the great spirits. And also in some part of Thailand, like the Mon people, also these have kind of exorcisms during the time of water festival as well. Okay, เรียบร้อยแล้วครับต่อเลยครับ
เสริมหน่อยนึงว่าอย่างความเชื่อเรื่องผีเนี่ยถ้าไปลาวเนี่ยเราก็จะเห็นสงกรานต์ที่ข้างหลังอาร์ตที่เป็นโลโก้อยู่นั่นน่ะมันเป็นลักษณะความเชื่อเดียวกันก็ผีปู่เยอย่าเยอเห็นไหมที่ใส่หน้ากากแดงๆนั่นน่ะถ้าเราไปดูสงกรานต์ในลาวเนี่ยเราก็จะเห็นว่าก่อนที่จะเข้าสู่พิธีการที่จะสงน้ำพระพุทธรูปประจำเมืองหรือสงน้ำพระบางเนี่ยเขาจะมีขบวนแห่ปู่เยอย่าเยอมาด้วยกับนางสงกรานต์เนี่ยเขาจะให้ปู่เยอย่าเยอเนี่ยลำก่อนแล้วเสร็จปุ๊บพระสงฆ์ก็จะเทศนาอานิสงส์ของสงกรานต์แล้วก็ปู่เยอย่าเยอสองตัวเนี่ยซึ่งเป็นผีบรรพบุรุษเนี่ยก็จะไปนั่งฟังเทศก่อนนะครับก็คือก่อนยังไม่สงน้ำนะจะให้ปู่เยอย่าเยอในลาวเนี่ยเข้าไปนั่งฟังเทศอานิสงส์สงกรานต์ก่อนเมื่อพระเทศอานิสงส์สงกรานต์เสร็จเนี่ยปู่เยอย่าเยอถึงจะไล่ลำเสร็จ ลำดับขั้นแรกเนี่ยปู่เยอย่าเยอจะสงน้ำพระบางก่อนในลาวนะครับให้ความสำคัญกับปู่เยอย่าเยอก่อนก็คือผีบรรพบุรุษก่อนนะครับแล้วถึงจะเป็นนางสงกรานต์ที่สมมุติเป็นนางสงกรานต์เป็นสงน้ำลำดับที่2ลำดับที่3ในสมัยก่อนเนี่ยก็จะเป็นพระมหากษัตริย์ลาวจะเป็นคนสงน้ำลำดับที่3แล้วถึงเป็นข้าราชการแล้วถึงเป็นประชาชนทั่วไปแต่ในปัจจุบันก็คือเป็นผู้นำเมืองหรือเจ้าเมืองหลวงพระบางเป็นคนสงก็จะเห็นว่าในลานวัดของลาวก็ผนวกลานผีเข้าไปด้วยก็คือผีปู่เยอย่าเยอเข้ามารับพุทธศาสนาที่เข้าไปใหม่จากความเชื่อเรื่องผีดั้งเดิมอันนี้ก็เป็นการสอดคล้องกับสงกรานต์ดั้งเดิมในเอเชียอาคเนย์เราเหมือนกัน
So Dr. Rat would like to add on about the background that you see behind me, the red mask you see is called ปู่เยอ and ย่าเยอ. There's a kind of the animism's belief in Luang Prabang in Laos. So he tried to point out that ปู่เยอ ย่าเยอwas seen as a significant spirit during Songkran festivals more than the Buddhism itself because they will ปู่เยอ ย่าเยอ will bring as a first place to join the Songkran festivals and later on ปู่เยอ and ย่าเยอ will be joined the Buddhism preachings for Songkran during this time of events and they will listen to the Dhamma or the Buddhism preachings inside the temples and also after that ปู่เยอ ย่าเยอ will be the first one who pouring the water for blessing to the Buddhas to honor the Buddhas at the first place and also followed by the lady of Songkran นางสงกรานต์ใช่ไหมลำดับ2หลังจากที่นางสงกรานต์ will pouring you can see like the gender right so after the animisms and the gender so you see they bring the movements in the second place and the third place the king the ruler will pouring the waters and the fourth ones will be the aristocrats and the last one will be the commoners who will be joined in Luang Prabang in this kind of ceremony so in conclusions of this kind of ideas you can see like in Laos they are not just allowed Buddhism to involve which is they have been import this kind of derive this kind of ideas from the Indian Buddhism right Theravada but Laos people also allows the local belief which is animism to be compromised with the Buddhisms in the same time so you can see right they have still practiced the local belief along with the Buddhism's belief which is the new concepts that influence into Southeast Asia ครับผม
ทีนี้เอาพาร์ทสุดท้ายก่อนที่จะไปส่งต่อท่านอื่นก็แล้วกันนะฮะในเรื่องของการจัดอีเวนต์สงกรานต์ในประเทศไทยนะครับซึ่งผมนี่ก็เป็นคนที่คิดรูปแบบเพื่อจะสนองต่อที่เป็นการเหมือนกับสาธิตรูปแบบของการแสดงสงกรานต์ในประเทศไทยเนี่ยให้กับนักท่องเที่ยวหรือให้ความรู้แก่ประชาชนทั่วไปได้เห็นนะครับซึ่งในรายละเอียดของนโยบายเนี่ยจะเป็นพี่เล็กจะเป็นคนเล่าต่อไปนะฮะทีนี้ในประเทศไทยเราเนี่ยเราก็พูดถึงสงกรานต์เนี่ยเราก็แบ่งภูมิภาคของไทยเนี่ยเป็น4ภูมิภาคใหญ่ๆนะครับก็คือภาคกลางภาคเหนือภาคตะวันออกเฉียงเหนือแล้วก็ภาคใต้นะครับผม
So for in the current context after we just talking about the overalls about the local dimension so now he would like to demonstrate about the Songkrans in different part of Thailand they have like northern southerns northeasterns and other parts of Thailand
ครับอย่างภาคกลางเราเนี่ยมันก็จะผูกเนื่องด้วยจุดศูนย์กลางก็คือกรุงเทพแล้วก็จะทำสงกรานต์ที่เป็นลักษณะของสงกรานต์แบบราชสำนักนะครับก็คือสงกรานต์แบบของพระมหากษัตริย์ที่เป็นพระราชพิธีซึ่งในพิธีสงกรานต์เนี่ยเราถูกบันทึกพิธีสงกรานต์เนี่ยในตำราที่เราเรียกว่าพระราชพิธี12เดือนนะครับพระราชพิธี12เดือนซึ่งเป็นพิธีกรรมในราชสำนักที่ต้องทำทั้ง12เดือนนะครับสงกรานต์นี่จะเป็นพระราชพิธีหนึ่งในพระราชพิธีเดือน5นะครับซึ่งพูดถึงเรื่องของการสงน้ำพระนะครับการก่อพระเจดีย์ทรายนะครับในราชสำนักซึ่งมีเจดีย์ทรายก็จะแบ่งเป็น เจดีย์พระทรายหลวงนะครับพระทรายบรรดาศักดิ์นะครับพระทรายเตียงยกพระทรายน้ำไหลนะครับแล้วก็พระราชพิธีตีข้าวบินหรือถวายข้าวบินนะครับตีข้าวบินหรือถวายข้าวบินแล้วก็พระราชพิธีที่เจ้านายจะต้องถวายน้ำสงกรานต์นะครับน้ำสงกรานต์ต่อพระภิกษุนะครับอันนี้เป็นพระราชพิธีณสำนักนะครับและอีกอันนึงซึ่งเราจะได้รับประทานกันโดยเฉพาะสงกรานต์ในภาคกลางเนี่ยแล้วก็ในร้านอาหารต่างๆที่เป็นร้านอาหารไทยในปัจจุบันนะฮะก็จะพยายามชูเรื่องของอาหารในหน้าสงกรานต์นี้มานะครับก็คือเรื่องของอาหารที่เป็นอาหารดับร้อนต่างๆนะครับก็คือเรื่องของอาหารข้าวแช่ชาววังนะอาจารย์คิดคงจะเคยรับประทานไหมฮะซึ่งข้าวแช่พัฒนามาจากอาหารมอญแต่ว่าพอเข้าสู่ราชสำนักกรุงเทพเนี่ยมันก็ถูกประดิษฐ์ประดอยหลากหลายขึ้นไปนะฮะก็จะเป็นอาหารอันหนึ่งซึ่งร้านอาหารปัจจุบันเนี่ยถ้าเรามากรุงเทพเราจะเจอร้านอาหารไทยที่ได้ชื่อว่ามีชื่อเสียงเนี่ยก็จะเสนอเมนูข้าวแช่ในช่วงนี้นะฮะนับตั้งแต่ปลายเดือนมีนาจนถึงสิ้นเดือนเมษาจนถึงต้นเดือนพฤษภาคมพอหมดเทศกาลนี้แล้วร้านอาหารก็จะปิดฤดูกาลข้าวแช่เหล่านี้ไปแล้วนะฮะแล้วก็ตรงนี้ก็จะถูกหยิบยกมาด้วยกับเรื่องของการกวนกะละแมใช่ไหมฮะซึ่งก็กวนกะละแมเนี่ยก็ทำกันทุกเทศกาลโดยเฉพาะสงกรานต์เนี่ยเราจะเห็นว่าในช่วงในกลุ่มที่จังหวัดที่มีมะพร้าวในกรุงเทพสมุทรสาครครับนนทบุรีพวกนี้จะมีกะละแมนี่แหละไว้สำหรับแจกนะครับเป็นอาหารในช่วงสงกรานต์นะครับอันนี้ก็คือเรื่องของสงกรานต์ที่ในภาคกลางนะครับแล้วก็จะมีการทำบุญทอดผ้าป่าอะไรก็เป็นประเพณีไปสงน้ำพระก่อพระเจดีย์ทรายถ้าทางเหนือเราเนี่ยก็จะพูดถึงเรื่องของปีใหม่เมืองหรือประเวณีปีใหม่เมืองซึ่งอาจารย์คิดเสนอรูปลักษณะรูปของสงกรานต์ที่เชียงใหม่แล้วนะฮะแต่ว่าสงกรานต์เชียงใหม่มันก็ถ้าเราไปเชียงใหม่จริงๆเราก็จะเห็นพิธีกรรมที่ชาวบ้านที่ยังทำอยู่ไม่ว่าจะเป็นการทานตุงใช่ไหมฮะการทานขันข้าวก็คือทำบุญนะครับการไปทำบุญที่วัดการทานเจดีย์ทรายการสงน้ำพระต่างๆเนี่ยก็จะเป็นประเวณีปีใหม่ซึ่งจะเห็นว่าเขาจะมีพิธีการทานต่างๆนี่เยอะมากนะครับส่วนทางใต้เนี่ยเขาจะเรียกว่าประเพณีวันว่างนะครับวันว่างก็คือเรื่องของช่วงที่หยุดจากกิจกรรมอื่นๆนะครับก็จะมีการขึ้นบิณจาหรือการขึ้นเบญจาก็คือมณฑปอันหนึ่งซึ่งทางใต้นี่เขาเรียกเบญจาหรือบิณจาเนี่ยสำหรับส่วนทางใต้นี่ก็จะเป็นสลักหยวกเป็นรูปเบญจาขึ้นพระแต่อีกอันนึงน่าสนใจมากในทางหัวเมืองใต้แล้วพยายามชูขึ้นมาในช่วงสงกรานต์เนี้ยนะครับที่มาผนวกกันกลายเป็นเทศกาลที่ผนวกกันโดยการเอาเทศกาลของฮินดูดั้งเดิมกับเทศกาลพุทธเนี่ยมาผสมกันเป็นการฟื้นฟูเรื่องของการโลชิงช้าในเมืองนครศรีธรรมราชนะครับซึ่งเป็นประเพณีพราหมณ์นะครับซึ่งการโลชิงช้าของในกรุงเทพเนี่ยจะทำในตอนปลายเดือนธันวาคมกับเดือนมกราคมนะฮะที่โบสถ์พราหมณ์แต่ว่าปัจจุบันเนี่ยของนครศรีธรรมราชเนี่ยหรือฟื้นพิธีกรรมโลชิงช้าของพราหมณ์มาในช่วงสงกรานต์ด้วยมีการแห่พระแม่ธรณีนะครับก็คือนางธรณีก็คือแล้วก็แห่พระแม่คงคาแห่พระแม่ธรณีนะครับด้วยที่เรียกว่าแห่นางดานคืออะไรนางดานก็คือรูปสลักบนไม้กระดานนะครับรูปสลักเป็นพระแม่คงคากับพระแม่ธรณีเนี่ยบนแผ่นไม้กระดานทางใต้ก็เรียกนางดานแห่นางดานกันก็พยายามรื้อฟื้นกันในช่วงนี้เหมือนกันครับอันนี้ก็ส่วนในทางอีสานเนี่ยก็พูดถึงประเพณีบุญเดือน5นะครับแล้วก็กลายเป็นการสร้างแลนด์มาร์คสำคัญปัจจุบันในจังหวัดต่างๆเนี่ยก็จะสร้างแลนด์มาร์คสำหรับประเพณีสงกรานต์เนี่ยของจังหวัดของตัวเองนะครับคงจะได้ยินถนนข้าวเหนียวในจังหวัดขอนแก่นนะฮะที่จะเป็นถนนข้าวเหนียวหรืองานเทศกาลดอกคูณเสียงแคนก็คือเทศกาลที่สร้างขึ้นมาเพื่อชูนโยบายการท่องเที่ยวดึงคนให้ไปท่องเที่ยวและได้ชมวัฒนธรรมของแต่ละจังหวัดนะครับเพื่อระบบเศรษฐกิจก็จะดีขึ้นเราจะเห็นว่าแล้วก็จะเรียกชื่อให้แตกต่างกันไปนะครับอย่างขอนแก่นก็เรียกว่าเทศกาลดอกคูณเสียงแคนนะครับแล้วก็จัดโซนมันก็เกิดการสร้างแลนด์มาร์คซึ่งแลนด์มาร์คเนี่ยมันเรียนแบบมาจากไหนก็เรียนแบบมาจากถนนข้าวสารในกรุงเทพ ที่มีการเล่นสงกรานต์กัน พอถนนข้าวสารในกรุงเทพเสร็จปุ๊บในอีสานก็เลยสร้างถนนข้าวเหนียวนะครับเกิดขึ้นแล้วจะมีถนนข้าวหลามแล้วมีถนนข้าวเม่า แล้วมีถนนข้าวหอมมะลิไปอีกนะครับเป็นการสร้างแลนด์มาร์คสำคัญในแต่ละจังหวัดในช่วงเทศกาลสงกรานต์นี้นะครับ
Okay, so another context about Songkran because we have mentioned about the local context. Now for the national levels, how do we describe Songkran? So Songkran have been divided into 4 main areas. The first one is the central, northern, southern, and Isan or northeastern. So for the 4 regions that I have mentioned, so for the central, the Songkran style is very related to the royal ceremonies, such as we have some kind of like you have to tie the Songkrans that have tied with the royal ceremonies, such as the 12-month ceremonies that Songkran considers one of this kind of the royal family as well. So the activities we will have like pouring water to the Buddha image, and also we have the building the sands pagodas in the temples. That's kind of activities, and we have a lot of more activities about related to the royal ceremony as well. And followed by for the northern area, so they call it as ปีใหม่เมือง is like have another difference of the local activities such as ทานตุง is about ทานตุงคืออะไรครับผู้ไก่
ทานธง
ทำธง
ที่ทำเป็นรูป12นักษัตริย์ชวดฉลูเหาะมาลงมาเสง
Okay, so like baking the flags, or in northern they call it as tung. Tung is like tong in the central that we pronounce. So they will make as the zodiacs on this time at the symbol of the zodiacs, such as like hens, dragons, or something like that, or nagas, or all those things will be craft in tong, and also pouring the water to the Buddha image as well. And for the Sultans, they call Songkran as the one. It's like everybody will stop their workings or activities to celebrate with their families. And also we have like some kind of the benja in the southern area as well, and also have another activities to make the slakyo. Slakyo is to craft the banana trunks to be the forms of any art forms as well. And also he also informs that in southern area they also built they have restorations of the Brahmins. It's called Lo Xing Cha. Lo Xing Cha is some kind of one of the, it's a giant swings. I believe that everyone here know the giant swing near to Wat Sutat in Bangkok. That's kind of things. What we interpret in southern regions again during the Songkran festivals. And last but not least, the Isans or northeasterns of Thailand also have this kind of ceremony during the fifth. It's called like the 5th month ceremonies that we have create one of the very significant during the times. Songkran allows the Isans area to create its own landmarks, such as ถนนข้าวเหนียว or the sticky rice road that might have the inspiration from Khao San or the rice roads in Bangkok, where the famous tourist destinations. Also, ถนนดอกคูณเสียงแคน in some place and something like that relate to the flower of the symbols of that province in Isan's area. So these are all of the example of the national levels, the mainstream levels that we would like to discuss today. ครับผม
ครับ
ก็สุดท้ายอยากให้ครูไก่เนี่ยอยากจะบอกว่าเสน่ห์ของสงกรานต์เนี่ยมันคืออะไรครับของครูไก่ใช่
เสน่ห์ของสงกรานต์นะครับมันก็คือสิ่งที่เราจะได้สนุกสนานกัน1ปีนะครับแล้วก็สิ่งที่เรารอคอยนะครับว่าเมื่อไหร่จะถึงสงกรานต์นะครับหลายคนก็นึกถึงวันสงกรานต์นี่คือการกลับบ้านนะครับการกลับไปหาพ่อแม่ปู่ย่าตายายทุกคนจะถามเสมอว่าสงกรานต์นี้กลับบ้านไหม นะครับสงกรานต์นี้จะได้มาบ้านไหมนะครับก็คือเป็นสิ่งที่ทุกคนรอคอยนะครับปีใหม่หรือว่าปีใหม่สากลหรือปีใหม่ฝรั่งเนี่ยก็เป็นวันหยุดตามประเพณีแต่สงกรานต์เนี่ยทุกคนจะต้องปิดร้านค้าแล้วก็ต้องกลับบ้านนะครับนี่ก็เป็นเสน่ห์อย่างหนึ่งนะฮะแต่จริงๆตัวนี้ไม่ได้กลับบ้านเลย เพราะว่าทำงานเพราะว่ามันจะมีงานอีเวนต์ของสงกรานต์ในกรุงเทพเนี่ยถ้าไม่มีโควิดเนี่ยเราก็จะมีงานอีเวนต์สงกรานต์เนี่ยเยอะมากนะครับในกรุงเทพนะครับเพราะเป็นช่วงหนึ่งของเทศกาลที่ทุกคนจะเข้ามาเที่ยวในกรุงเทพและเที่ยวเมืองไทยทั่วไปนะครับก็มีความสุขตลอดสงกรานต์ครับ
So he have made the charms as the charms of Songkran as a concluding remark. So he would like to say like the charms of Songkran is about like home, about because every time that when Thai people greeting each other, they'll ask, "Hey, this Songkran, are you going back home or not?" It's like symbols of going to the happiness or like warmest place in the world, which is home, that you can go back home. So everyone have been waiting for these festivals in every year to have a chance to go back to the quiet place or to see the loved ones during this festival นะครับก็วันนี้ก็ขอบคุณครูไก่มากนะครับอาจารย์สุรัตน์ดร.สุรัตน์จงดาในการมาเล่ามาแชร์นะครับในเรื่องของสงกรานต์นะครับกับมีความเชื่อมโยงอย่างไรกับประเทศเพื่อนบ้านรวมถึงลักษณะประเพณีนะครับการเห็นนะครับก็เราจะได้เห็นว่าสงกรานต์เนี่ยก็จะเป็นหลายธีมนะครับก็may I like wrap up everything so he proposed like the main things that he has presented just now about sharing things like we have the two levels, right? The first level is about the local levels that based on the household sphere that relate activities that relate to the family. The second one is temple spheres, which is related to the Buddhism religions that involved in Songkran. And the third one is the animism spheres that we can see in the local context that how do you use the animisms have very strong influence in the societies. And also it's not just only in northeastern Thailand where he came from, but also in Laos and Laos PDRs as well. That we have some kind of like a place where animisms compromise with the newly religions, which is Buddhism or Brahmins in Laos as well. And another level is the national levels that divide into four regions in Thailand that have the different charms and different ways of celebrations of the Songkran festival. So this is the concluding remark for the second speaker. So move on for the last panelist here. I would like to introduce all of the audience to Mr. Surapon Sawet Setni, former governor of Tourism Authority of Thailand. He will elaborate how these festivals associate to the tourism policy. So first of all, I would like you to introduce yourself to all of the speakers and the audience. Thank you.
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์อาร์ตอาจารย์พิษอาจารย์สำอางแล้วก็อาจารย์สุรัตน์นะครับ A very good day to everyone. It is indeed a great pleasure and also it's an honor for me to be with all these distinguished panelists. And thank you to all the online audience for your interest. First up, my disclaimer, I'm not an expert and I'm not really knowledgeable in arts and culture, but my background is more of the tourism marketing. I work in the National Tourist Office of Thailand for over 36 years. And in case of Thai tourism, there are three major tourism products that form Thailand as the preferred destination. The first thing is the natural beauty. People come to Phuket, people come to Pattaya, to Samui for the natural beauty, or even to Kanchanaburi. And then the second one is the people, the Thai people, the friendliness, the hospitality. That one is one of the main attractions for Thailand. And the third one, which is very important, no less important than the other two, that is the cultural heritage. We think about the Thai classical dance, we think about Sukhothai, Chiang Mai, and Thai food. That's also part of the cultural heritage. And that form about over 30% of the visitors to Thailand. They make decision to come to Thailand because of the cultural experiences that they are looking after. So if we are looking at our heydays, last few years, we have 40 million visitors coming to Thailand. So at least more than or close to 20 million will be enjoying, what we have as a cultural heritage. So the bottom line is the culture is very important for tourism health, for tourism business and industry. Today I would like to touch on 3 points. The first one is I'd like to talk about the importance of traditional arts and culture tourism industry, which I have mentioned a little bit already. And the second point is the similarity of the festival celebrated in ASEAN and also different part of the countries. And the last one, I think it is important for me that I would like to share the experience of how or what you can do, to get to the sustainable cultural tourism. The first part I already mentioned that cultural heritage is very important for tourism. And just lately, for your information, there's a magazine, a business magazine, one of the leading world business magazine called CEO World. They have just announced their report on the world's best countries for cultural heritage influence 2021. They rank Thailand among top 5 countries as the country for cultural heritage influence. The first one is Italy, second is Greece, the third one Spain, fourth one is India, and the fifth is Thailand. So the survey analyzed all the cultural aspects of different countries. That includes architects, the artistic legacy, the fashion, the food, the music, the literature, the cultural attractions, and also cultural accessibility. So I say this that Thailand is better than the others in ASEAN, but I would say that Asia also represents as the world ranking are very high in terms of cultural richness and cultural heritage. And culture has played a very important role in upholding the social value and also creating economic value for many countries in ASEAN. And I think many countries in ASEAN also give very high regards to their cultural heritage. And the bottom line in this point is that the destination will be wealthy if its cultural heritage stays healthy. And cultural tourism, ladies and gentlemen, still the trend. They might change in a bit of the detail, but generally cultural tourism is one of the pioneering segment of tourism. In the old days, people travel for a religious purpose, which is also culture. Pilgrimage started off like many hundred years ago. Up until now, we still see people coming for pilgrimage. They come to practice Buddhism meditation, for example. So culture is still very important for tourism. And now I would like to move to the second issue, second point, the similarity of the festival in mainland ASEAN or in general in even Thailand. There are commonalities that the speaker has already mentioned, Kun Kai and also Kun Samang has already mentioned about the commonality. But from the tourism point of view, when we work for cultural tourism, I look at things more in a more simple approach, and non-academic, non-technical approach. I look at the commonality as it comes from the roots of being an agricultural society. We are a rice culture. We all eat rice. We grow rice, paddy fields. So the livelihood of the people will very much depend on the water. So people worship, not respect, but I think it's to the point of the worship the water as the source of prosperity and well-being. And in ASEAN, I think our festival revolve around 4 or 5 common elements. As I can see it, one is the farmers or the folks. Generally, that's the people who's the main player in any kind of festivals. And second is the faith. Believe or we worship or we fear the power of nature. And some believe that we have the same background from Buddhism, Hinduism or Brahmanism, or even sometimes animism, that also forming our behavior in celebrating our festivities. We always have faith. We want the blessing, we want the protection from the supernatural power. The third one is the fortune. You wish for the luck for good and plentiful products or produce, agricultural produce. Because being in a agricultural society, you just cannot predict what's going to happen. You depend very much on the climate and the weather that changed day by day or season by season. So you're always looking for fortune when you are celebrating something. You are trying to do the merit making, wishing that something good will happen to you. And the fourth one is we are Asian. We give a lot of importance to our family and friends. So the festivity will also involve, gathering, seeing friends, going to the elderlies, get their blessing. And the last one, I think it is very clear, as we in ASEAN also would agree, that is any festivities must have fun, must have feast, good food. Because after the long period of working in the field, you need some relaxation. So Songkran or Loi Krathong is probably marking somehow the period, the end of the period or the beginning of the period of some agricultural seasons. So this is the 4 F's that I can see that whenever you are doing something regarding the cultural festivities, there will be these elements involved. And for Songkran or water festival, I think for tourism it's huge. It's one of the biggest celebration that draws tons of tourists every year. And they plan well ahead just to come to Thailand to enjoy the water festival in Thailand, which, Tan Kai has already mentioned, there are differences from region to the region, and that's the richness of our culture. And this is the magnet, that we have been using for tourism marketing. And now I touch to Songkran, then probably there will be a question coming up, what is exactly the water festival that we are talking about? We at the Thai Beverage public company, we work together with a lot of different entities, the temples, the local communities, other businesses, the educational institutions, to form some kind of a festival which is unique. Water festival in our objective is, as a matter of fact, we would like to conserve, the traditional way of celebrating Songkran. And as I sat here for the last few minutes, hearing Kun Kit, hearing Dr. Samang and also Dr. Kai talking about different details and information about this Songkran celebrated in the region, I come up with a lot of ideas that this kind of thing can be put together as well. The water festival, the name that we intentionally used, is nothing complicated. It's just only that we want to make it easier to communicate in the international scale. And secondly, if we call it water festival, it gives us some flexibility so that we can give a little bit more of the creativity or a contemporary kind of new ideas into our festival. And thirdly, we would like to make the water festival a platform where we can work with the temple, the schools, and the community. That's one part. And also we'd like to seek the support from already owns. And water festival, we select the venue. In the first year, I think we have seven areas or seven historical piers and the temples. as the main working ground. And after the second years, we have expanded to 10 areas in Bangkok and extended to Chiang Mai, to Khon Kaen, to Udon Thani, and also to Phuket. This year also is the 6th year. We are doing the same, provide special transportation. When we work, we are not working like an event organizer. It's not just like we set up the stage and we announce we are going to have all these performances, and then after we finish, we just pack up and then gone and see you the next year. We are not going to do the festival that way. We want to have a continuity and also the ongoing engagement with the society, with the designated area, with the institution, with the temples. And that I proved after 6 years, we have lots of friends working with us in the traditional context, as well as in the community context, as well as the community participation. And also we also look at the way of making the economic gain for the local involved. So that is introduction of the water festival and our objective of working in a different way. But unfortunately, the last year and also this year with the pandemic, we have to really adjust the content and the activities of the water festival to a certain measure that it would be safe, and we don't want to go through any risk, so that or the big entertainment or some kind of the activity that would draw the people together in large number, we try to avoid that. But we still have the religious rites, and so merit making, lots of activities will be done in the temples. And of late, I just heard that in few of the places up country that we are going to organize the Songkran festival in full scale, we probably have to cancel it, unfortunately. But that's the water festival in our way of working and in our objectives, and we would like to join hands, not just only within our country, but be seeking opportunity that if we have common ground, we have commonality, uniqueness that we can share, probably we can work together and bring in all those special activities, special beauty or special performances, and we can put up a joint water festival within the region. That's the hope for the future. But there are things that I would like to mention as my experience working in tourism. We have very close relationship with cultural institutes, government and private sector, and in many cases, tourism is looked at. We were looked at as someone who are not, supportive to cultural conservation. It's in a way probably right, but I am not totally agree with that. But because for the cultural heritage to carry on, you must have audience, You must have interest from the people coming in to support. Economic gain is also important, but it's the matter of management for the sustainable cultural tourism. And I would like to bring up some point that I used to follow as my work disciplines when it's come to cultural heritage. One thing is that you have to have respect to everyone involved. And by respect, I would say it's 360 degrees respect. It's not an exaggeration. You respect the above. From above, I mean probably religious belief, the faith, the religious institution, the government, that you have to really give them respect when you're doing any kind of tourism promotion in culture. On your left, on your right is your sponsorship, your partners. Sometimes the two sides, they don't agree very much. They have different opinions, but you have to make the balance. They are important in working environment. And also, in front of you are those beneficiaries or those who get the impact from the activity you are doing. The communities, the younger generations, and anyone who will be directly involved or get the impact of the cultural event you are organizing. And behind you, you have to have academics. You have to have the experts, the artisans, the artists to be behind you. They can help you, they can give you information, they give you profound knowledge about what you're doing, what are you doing, right or wrong, the know-how, the knowledge, and the know-who, which is very important. You have to know the right people to really get things going on the right way. And below is no less important. Up, side, left, right, front, back, and below, you have to really give very much attention to. That is the environment, the water, the river, the tradition, the way of life. So this is the respect that I always bear in mind. It is the discipline to work. When you come to a very, very important social value and cultural value. That's I would like to share. If we can do this, okay, the cultural management, cultural promotion will be going on the right track. We might not make a very big splash one time of festival, but I'd love to see the kind of joining hands in pushing the cultural heritage slowly but very firmly, and waiting for the snowball effect. It grows from small to larger. I think that's the way we would like to see, even with our water festival organization. We are trying to look at things on a sustainable way of promotion. And probably that's about everything. Okay, some other thing. When you are doing the cultural promotion in tourism, or to really make the cultural heritage functional, probably some adaptation, some creativity is important. But this thing must be done with profound understanding, with intricity, and also with good taste. so that you sometimes you have to extract it, to make it easier to understand to the larger public who are not the cultural enthusiasts. And sometimes you have to expand it. But I see this kind of management or changes or adaptation as very important. The key word is culture must be functional and easy to access to, easy to understand, so that people can be part of it and can support it. Like in the gemology or in jewelry, they call it cutting. Cutting is very important. But to result in to make the gem more luminous and more attractive, not cutting to really destroy it. So culture, heritage is something very fragile, very sensitive. You have to really be very careful when you are dealing with it. So this is the point of view of tourism promotion experience that I have. I don't know whether it's relevant or not with the talk today, but I think this is what I would like to share for now.
Okay, thank you for your sharing points of view. So I really appreciate the views of the former governors of TATs or Thailand tourism about like how the importance of the cultures. So I would like to wrap up the points again. Is that I have three main points. The first one is how the culture is the significance for the business for the country, each country, especially in Southeast Asia, and also the similarities of mainland ASEAN and how that they have some kind of like shared belief and also based on the agricultural societies that based on the worships, the sort of life is the waters, and they have 5 elements about this kind of idea, which is about the folks, which is the people's related faiths, and the fortunes or cultural productions, and also the friendships, the gatherness, and the relaxations during these festivals that we have a commonalities. And the last point, which is I consider as the very important points about those futures collaborations between the joining hands of the how to enhance the people to cooperate between not just only Thailand but around the country that have shared cultures, to using these water festivals as the international scales cooperations to improve the economy as well as improve the people-to-people relations, not just only one societies, but also other place in Southeast Asia's country as well. So before I end this discussions, I would like to say that thanks to all of the panels discussions that we have for Ms. Kit Young, who the themes of the talk is about like Myanmar and Thailand, and also about the music, how it evolved into the water festivals, how to see the shared cultures in our both of the societies, and followed by Dr. Sam An, the Chancellor of the Panasatra University, who shares the activities and who give knowledge about the water festivals. Even though we have the same New Year's, but the water is not just the main things in the Khmer cultures, the same thing, but it's the part of it. It's not the main thing, but the main thing is about the gatherings of the people together. And Dr. Surat Jongdas, who shares the views about the Isans, the Northeastern Thais, Northeastern Thais, shared cultures with the Laos cultures, and how the activities with the 3 main things that involve into temples, involved to the families, and also involved to the local original belief, which is the animisms. And also the last one, Mr. Sulapun Sawesni, so he gave a point about the futures cooperations about the Songkran festivals here. So it's very, very significant things in Southeast Asia. So last but not least, I would like to say that as the culture leaf
people still alive. So this kind of like the conclusive mark for the common and unique water festivals in ASEAN. Thank you all for the participants here, the panelists, and thank for your times and efforts that we can see sort of shares art and cultures and shares the ideas of water festivals as well. And thanks to the audience who are watching us now. So thank you ขอบคุณมากครับ
ขอบคุณค่ะสวัสดี
ครับ